Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver on a 2023 Kia Telluride. This is what your hitch is going to look like when it's installed on the vehicle, and the great part is it's a hidden cross tube, so the only thing that you're going to see hanging down from the vehicle is going to be the actual receiver tube opening, so just the business end, as the rest of it is hidden behind the rear fascia. And this one is a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is going to be a great size for whatever ball mount, cargo carrier, or bike rack you may pick up. It's kind of the standard, so you're definitely going to have lots of options. And when putting your accessories in place, you're going to be using a 5/8 pin and clip. And the hitch does not come with one. A lot of times when you pick up an accessory, it'll actually have that pin and clip with it. But if you want to pick up a locking version, we have those available here at eTrailer. And it's kind of nice to be able to load your accessories up, lock it in place, and not have to worry about someone walking away with it. You also have 2 safety chain loops, one on each side. It's going to make it nice and easy to hook up your standard S-style hooks or even a larger clevis style when pulling a trailer. Speaking of towing, this has some decent weight capacities. It has a gross trailer weight rating of 5,000 pounds, which is going to be the weight of the trailer plus the accessories loaded on. You also have a 750-pound tongue weight, which is pretty solid. That's going to be some of your suspended accessories like your cargo carriers or bike racks, and you're going to be able to really load those up. Even a 4-bike rack with bikes all loaded onto it, it's going to be really hard to exceed that. Now this can be used with a weight distribution hitch, and that's going to bump your gross trailer weight rating up by 1,000 to 6,000 pounds for that, but your tongue weight's going to stay the same at 750. Now before hooking up to your trailer and towing, you are going to want to check the vehicle's owner's manual and compare that with what the hitch is rated at. Take the lowest of those numbers, and that way you're not overloading anything and staying safe in the process. Now when choosing accessories, you want to make sure that if you have folding accessories like your cargo carrier bike racks, that it's not going to make contact with your fascia. And also when hooking up to your trailer, you're going to want to make sure your ball mount is going to have clearance. And this one from the center of the hitch pin hole to the furthest point of the rear fascia is coming in right at about 3.5 inches. You also want to determine if you need a rise or a drop when choosing a ball mount. So this one has a ground clearance of 16 inches. So that way you can measure your coupler on your trailer and pick up a rise or a drop as necessary. Now when having your accessories loaded up, 16 inches is a good amount of ground clearance, but if you have a cargo carrier bike rack, it is going to extend past the vehicle, and when you go up an incline, they're going to want to tilt down. So just keep that in mind when you're loaded up and going up hills. Now, as far as the installation goes, this one is not too terrible. You're going to be using some factory spots to put the hardware in place. You do need to lower down the muffler to be able to gain access to that. And you'll be removing a small panel that's pretty easy. And the only trimming that you're going to have to do is just on this bottom panel to make clearance for the hitch. And there's no drilling required. And it can definitely be done in your driveway or garage. And I would say about an hour, hour and a half. And you might want to have an extra set of hands while doing it. Now I'm going to walk you through all those steps, so follow along so you can get your hitch installed. To begin our installation, we're going to want to lower down our spare tire, and that's going to give us the space to be able to put our hitch up. And if you've never had to lower your spare tire on your Telluride, it's pretty easy. In the back hatch here, you're just going to pull your cargo cover up, and you're going to see this plastic cover. It says spare tire. Just pry this open real quick. And we have this bolt. To lower this down, you can use your spare tire tools. They're going to be located in this cabinet, so just pry this up. And in this nice little bag that they have all the tools, you're going to want to grab this wrench, and that's going to allow us to spin this and lower the tire down. Now we'll go ahead and set our spare side. Next, on our driver's side, we have this panel underneath that we're going to need to remove. Now there's going to be 3 plastic push pins, and those are pretty easy to get. There's 4 little slots here, so you can use a flathead screwdriver. I have a trim panel tool that makes it pretty easy. Just pop that center part out, and these should pull out fairly easily. Now there's also 2 plastic nuts, and those are going to be located in these kind of corrugations here in this opening. Now they come down by hand pretty easy. You can kind of spin them and just kind of put pressure on them, or you can use a 14mm socket, either way, but it's pretty easy to get these to pop off. So now we'll set this aside. Now we are going to need to lower down our muffler, and because our hitch is going to bolt into the frame rail above it, this is going to give us more space. And if you're doing this at home, in your garage, or on a driveway, something along those lines, just make sure you have something to support the exhaust once we take it off the isolators. That way it's not bending and kind of supporting the weight downstream. Now there's 3 isolators that we're going to pry off here. First one, pretty easy. And with all of them, to make it a little bit easier, if you need to, you can put a little bit of silicone, you can use a penetrating oil, or even just a soapy water solution to kind of make this easier. And with a pry bar or even a long flathead, just use the muffler as leverage to pop this one off. There's also one tucked back here, so we'll get this one popped off as well. Now, since I'm on a lift, I'm using a strap to just kind of create a cradle here, just a cam buckle to go between 2 points of suspension to create that support for our exhaust. And this is going to be the last one right here by the differential, and we'll get this one popped off as well. And also, it doesn't really matter if it's the top or the bottom one. Whichever one is easier for you to pry off is going to be the best one to do. So let's see if we can get this one off here. And that gives us that clearance to be able to get to our frame rail. Now our next step is going to be to trim out the bottom portion here on our fascia, and that's going to allow for the hitch to sit up into the spot. Now, something I found in the instruction manuals is I measured it on the way that they wanted me to, and I realized it wasn't exactly centered up. So what I ended up doing, and what you might want to do, is just have someone kind of mock up the hitch. It's got the side plates that kind of go into the side of the frame. So once that's up in place, just go ahead and make some marks right here. And then we'll measure back. It says 3 1/8. I'm going to go about 3 inches, and that way we can always trim up a little bit more if we need to, but you don't want to go excessive. But again, the instruction manual, it is kind of slightly skewed, so I would suggest just mocking yours up. That way you know for sure that it's going to work. Now, as far as cutting, I'm using an oscillating tool or a multi-tool. You can use a Dremel, you can use a pair of snips. Any kind of cutting that utensil you may have to get through this, just go ahead and start trimming this out. Now we'll just take a file. You can even take the flat part of a knife blade and just kind of run it along here to get some of those burrs taken off. Now we're going to get ready to put the hitch in place, and we're going to start by using the long bolts to go through the horizontal holes in the frame, and that's going to support it. So the main thing is we're trying to get one started on each side. That way we can get the rest of the hardware up nice and easy. Now make sure you put a conical tooth washer. The teeth on the washer should face towards the middle of the hitch, and we're going to be passing it from the inside out. So just have your bolt ready, and then we'll slide this up. Now it can get tricky on the passenger side here. The heat shield here might cause a little bit of clearance issues, so what I do is pass that washer down to where there's a small gap down here, and if you can get that in, it's going to make it a lot easier to be able to push that bolt through. And it's going to be kind of the same on this forward hole too, so just get that washer in the gap between the heat shield and the hitch there. And you may have to kind of move the hitch around to get some of these to align. But once we get these in place, it's going to make it a lot easier to get that bottom hardware in. So now we can grab our smaller bolts here. These are going to go into weld nuts in the frame. So just make sure that the holes align. You may need to shift the hitch around just to front or back just to kind of get these to align. Make sure you put your conical tooth washer on there. And we're going to just kind of hand thread these in place for now until we get all of the hardware in place. So now that we have the bottom ones bolted in, we can go ahead and get the rest of our hardware put on our horizontal bolts. So put that conical tooth washer with those teeth facing towards the frame rail, and then we'll thread on our nuts. Now we don't want to get these tight quite yet, because what we're going to do is tighten these first to cinch that hitch up, and then we can come back and tighten these down. So now we'll go ahead and tighten the bottom ones down. We're going to be using a 17mm socket to do that. Now we can tighten down our horizontal bolts here. Now you may need to put a wrench on the head of the bolt to be able to tighten this down without spinning. Sometimes though, if you thread this down, it'll kind of hold it in place. So now we're going to come back and use our torque wrench to torque these down to the Torque settings found in the instruction manual. Now keep in mind the bottom bolts are going to be a different torque setting than the ones that are going horizontal, so just adjust accordingly. And if you need a torque wrench, we have these available at eTrailer. You can generally go to an auto parts store and rent one for free. So go through, get everything torqued down properly. Now once all your hardware is tightened and torqued properly, you can go ahead, get your exhaust put back on the isolators, get your spare tire back up, and put your plastic panel back in. And then all you have to do after that is enjoy your hitch. And that was a look and installation of the eTrailer trailer hitch receiver on a 2023 Kia Telluride.